everyone, and welcome to today's episode of M&A Empowerment. Today's guest is Christy Dancause. She is the regional CEO of the Northeast and Great Lakes regions of ACG. Welcome, Christy. I know we're just coming off of Deal Max from the timeline here, so it's good. It was good to see you in person there, and great to have you here. So appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey. It was great to see you as well. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, if you could take a couple minutes to just describe your organization and your role in supporting the M&A ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. So ACG is the Association for Corporate Growth, which is an international organization with over 14,000 members and 60 chapters, bringing together members who are involved in the middle market M&A ecosystem. So investors and advisors working with middle market businesses to grow. My role at ACG, and I've actually been here for 19 years throughout my career, first in running the Boston chapter of ACG, and now as the regional CEO of the 12 chapters across the Great Lakes and Northeast region. My main role is to work with those chapters to find opportunities for alignment for our members, because so many of our members are not just locally based and not necessarily doing business just in their local market. We really felt like ACG had an opportunity to connect the chapters across the regions and make sure that our members had a more seamless experience across those chapters. So it's a really exciting new role at the organization, and I'm thrilled to see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can definitely relate to all the things you just said, being middle market providers. It's nice to have that focus, but also to your point, and even more so since post COVID, I mean, it just seems, geography bounds, especially in like the smaller markets, really, it's just so much broader than that. So that's great. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. And so, could you tell us a little bit about how ACG, and even if it's specific to your kind of region, how they support women in M&A?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been so lucky in ACG, particularly in the regions that, I work with, to have a very robust network of women who truly are active, successful in the M&A community and support one another. And so really the activities across ACG in this part of the country and frankly across the country come from the energy of the women who have seen the successes. So we're so lucky to have the women who come together and develop opportunities for women to build relationships, build their network around other successful women in the middle market. So through either activities, events that are specifically geared towards women, opportunities for them to make those connections, not only with one another, but also get introductions and build those relationships with others in the industry who they know are supportive of women and want to help forge that growth for them. So they're probably across the 12 chapters that I work with, there's probably, I would say, 40 plus events that are happening just for the women. And then
Wow.
opportunities. Yeah, I mean, it's really very successful in getting those women to come together. And an example of another thing that you kind of are starting to see more and more is that the women will also invite each other to kind of pre-events before some of the larger events. We still sort of hear that there are some women who are intimidated by walking into a room full of 400 people, not knowing a lot of the people there, and it's certainly still very male dominated. And so the women will find opportunities to meet in advance, get to know a small group so that when they go into that larger network, they know some people, they have some people coming in with them, and that has really spoken volumes to see the comfort level of the women who are there and more diversity within the audiences themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super great to hear. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've experienced it just as much as I have. It can be, even
Yeah.
though we do stuff like this for a living, there's still times when I'm like, "Oh my goodness, there's so many people here. I don't really know anybody." So I think that's
Right.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So, lastly, what would you say to other women? What advice would you give to women who are currently living in the M&A world, in this middle market that we live in? What advice would you give to them?
So I've been sort of lucky that over the 19 years of being at ACG, I've been able to experience and witness the best in the industry through our members. And so my advice, and just from what I've learned in viewing and observing how they navigate this industry, is it's all about relationships at the end of the day. And that's truly the importance industry wide of, getting comfortable with people, getting to know them on a deeper level. And so I think for women who are either new to the industry or considering getting into it, is just keeping that in mind, is finding people that you have something in common with, having that comfort level, and just at the end of the day, realizing it's just about building that relationship. It's not about whether you're, a man or a woman at the end of the day. But I also think that finding advocates is really important. So finding strong women who have been successful, who have advice that they can share, building those connections. I do find that the women in ACG want to refer business to one another, want to make introductions. They go out of their way to support each other, and that goes a really long way in advancing the industry. But I also recommend making those important connections with the men in the industry too. There are a lot of strong advocates who really, at the end of the day, are just trying to make connections and help one another. And so I do strongly encourage, build those relationships with the men and the women. And you'll find that the more diverse your network is and the more you maintain those relationships, the more success you'll have.
Awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. That's great advice. We do focus a lot on, women within the M&A world and in our organizations, but, it's not to say that there aren't plenty of men out there, like you're saying, that are willing to support
Yeah.
and help just in the same ways. And I get that sometimes there is that comfort level with women at first, but it's not, to the
Yeah, of
exclusion
course.
of men in our field. So, I
Yeah.
completely agree. That's great advice.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that over and over. And I think the women really, are comfortable with having men in the room, but they also know, just like in any other group, you build a relationship with people you have something in common with, and that helps to, kind of take you to the next level.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, Christy, it's been so great to have you on M&A Empowerment. Again, this is Christy Dancause. She is the regional CEO of the Northeast and Great Lakes regions of ACG. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks so much for having me.